The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's annual walk to celebrate and commemorate the lives of those touched by blood cancers is just around the corner, and coming up, we will light the night.
And September is the National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and we've got an organization here that's going to let us know all the great events going on in the city.
And we'll learn about a local demonstration garden and an upcoming bulb sale as we chat with the executive director of Brightside St. Louis.
All that and more comes your way next on St. Louis Presents. Welcome back to St. Louis Presents, and we are all here today. Of course, the big news around St. Louis, around the country, around the world has been Ferguson. So I think we've all heard enough of the bad news so far. I think it's really important for us to focus right now on getting our community together and healing some of these obvious wounds.
You know, I'm the kind of person that always likes to make a joke about everything, but this is worth noting. Every once in a while something comes along where there's really nothing funny. Yeah. And this is just one of those things.
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually had the opportunity to go down. You know, everyone's been talking about the protests and the riots and those types of things, and I had the opportunity to go down there this past Sunday, and it's a totally different energy than I guess what has been out there, what's been portrayed, and what people are seeing more of the negative side of it. On the positive side of things, people are there supporting each other. There's people out there giving out free food, opening up their restaurants to protesters to sit down and eat because they've been out there for hours.
Yeah, there was a group of women, I forget where they were from, but they got together and did an all-day eating thing, went to every restaurant and ate all day just to show their support. So there are some good stories coming out of it.
Right,
absolutely.
And what I have noticed even on social media this week, which is different than last week, is more people posting about the food drives and more people posting about ways that we can start actually talking to each other instead of being on one side or the other, which I think is really positive. And another thing that I thought, I mean, North County has had to endure quite a lot of bad publicity, but also this week, there were about 1,500 people who showed up for watch parties for Leah Weber and Al Watson, who work in Florissant, and they won the Next Great Baker on TLC, which was fantastic. So that was great news, and to think that that many people would come out for a watch party to see whether they won or not is also great news. Sandy, was there at any point that you were frightened? Because I think when people watch the coverage, it is very frightening. And people who aren't from St. Louis think that the whole city is up in flames, which clearly is not the case. But what was your feeling? You know,
that was one question I got asked a lot when people found out that I went down there and protested and whatnot. And that was the one thing they asked me. And honestly, I was not afraid at all. It's different when you're physically down there in the midst of it all. It's a totally different energy. And you know, people are there to really just kind of get the word out about what they want from the system and what's going on right now. And, you know, unfortunately, there are people that are taking advantage of an unfortunate situation, and that's causing the other issues that have made it such a negative situation and such a negative thing that's been shown on the media. But it was so positive being down there. I was not afraid at all. I think the only time that I was a little nervous, because I was down there during the day, and I stayed all the way till the evening, I think the time I got a little bit nervous was when they started turning out the lights at the gas stations on the streets and things like that, and it was almost their signal to kind of say, okay, everyone needs to disperse, but it was hours before curfew. And so that's when I got a little nervous, and that's when a lot of the chaos ensued thereafter, because people were a little upset about that.
Well, Tim Lampley was in Ferguson as well, and he focused a little bit more on the positive news too. So let's take a quick look at Tim's impressions of what's happening in Ferguson.
While you show some of the young people out of control, show some of the young people that went out there last night and night before last and helped clean up and stand up in their neighborhood. This is not about generation. They're young people that want justice, that know how to protest peacefully.
That's activist Reverend Al Sharpton's message to the media while speaking at a jam-packed rally for teenager Michael Brown. It's been the worst of times for the St. Louis region, played out on national television since the 18-year-old was killed by a Ferguson police officer August 9th. Some citizens took to the streets in Ferguson, where demonstrators have been every day since the incident occurred, while others gathered downtown on the Arch grounds for prayer.
There are elements in this life that is designed to separate us. Race is one. Economic position is another.
And while these images have been seared in the minds of people watching all over the world, Ferguson resident Justin McNear says those images don't fully represent concerned citizens who want to make a positive change without confrontation and violence.
It's about standing up for a community, and even if you don't wear a badge, you have a right to protect and you have a right to serve your community, even as a citizen. So that's something that you're trying to do. Yes, and it don't matter what you're wearing, what you look like. I brought them here with me because they wanted to be here. I didn't force somebody to be here, and that's what it's about.
McNear's brought his 3 co-workers to see firsthand how the community is dealing with the crisis.
What did you do while you were out there today?
We were out here. I actually live in Hazelwood, so not too far from here. And so I was really just wanted to come and see, what was all happening for myself. And I got really a different insight than, just seeing the news, the nightly news and what's on TV. I got a different perspective on what's happening, and I was able to really be able to feel, what's going on in the community.
The Michael Brown case has the world's attention. Other communities are watching how the police and the public respond here in Ferguson. The question now is, when will this community get past the hurt and start the healing process? I'm Tim Lampley, reporting for St. Louis Presents.
Our next guest knows a thing or two about making the city a beautiful place to live.
She's Mary Lou Green, the executive director of Brightside St. Louis, the city's oldest nonprofit cleaning and greening group. Mary Lou, hi.
How you doing? How you doing?
So you've got greening, you've got cleaning. Do you have preening, or is that just Sandy and me? Hey,
you had to say something.
Last time I saw you, I guess it was spring, and I brought you some daffodils. We did a little TV show here at STL TV about what you do in the spring every year.
Yes, and now we're excited because now people can get daffodils to plant in their own yard through our bulb sale that we're having now.
Yeah, just to recap, when you drive around the city every spring, particularly along the highways and the interchanges, and you see all those daffodils coming up, that's Brightside St. Louis. And you gave me some crazy number. I asked you how many bulbs, and you knew.
I think there's like 14 million that have been planted in total over the years since we started planting daffodils.
Now, how long have you been planting daffodils?
About 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another thing we talked about that I'd like to revisit is that demonstration garden. Have you ever been there?
No.
Down at, what is the intersection of Kings Highway?
Kings Highway and Vandevenner. It's right next to our offices.
A lot of people remember that. That was an old gas station for a long time, then it was abandoned for, I think, a decade. Tell the little backstory about that.
2 decades, and they had done the environmental remediation, took out the tanks, and then 20 years later, we got control of the property, and we have turned it into a beautiful demonstration garden that's open to the public, and it's kind of a new landmark in St. Louis because it has a giant monarch butterfly at the entrance and giant purple cone flowers that people can see from a block away, I think.
Well, Sandy's never been there, so what might she find?
Well, I think you definitely need to come. You will find all Missouri natives and cultivars of natives, including perennials, grasses, shrubs, and trees, and then a lot of environmentally friendly development practices. We have 4 different types of porous surfaces on our site, like porous concrete and asphalt.
Do you call it wastewater, or what do you call that? Rainwater? Don't you do something with that?
We're reducing stormwater runoff because it doesn't run off our site. When it rains, all the water stays on our site, either in our rain garden or seeps through these porous surfaces. We have a really cool porous surface, our most recent. It's recycled glass and rock. And so you could stand there with a hose and the water will go right through it, but you're walking on broken glass.
Wear your flip-flops that day when you go.
Yeah, most definitely.
No, the sharp edges are gone. You're okay. Steve may want to get you in trouble. I don't.
Always. He always wants to get me in trouble. So your organization does a lot of things outside of that as well. One thing that I was kind of asking you about earlier is the litter efforts to pick up litter and that kind of thing. I know you have something going on your website in that regard. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, one of the things that's really important is we do so many reactive things. We have to clean up after people throw trash around. What we'd really like to do is get people to sign the litter pledge that's on our website and encourage people to really think about, you know, taking care of our environment with something as simple as not throwing litter down or picking it up when you see it.
When you see it,
Yeah.
okay. And that's something they can go check on your website as well.
Absolutely, brightsidestl.org.
Another thing you do through the year too, speaking of cleanup, is if people have a graffiti problem, you help them with that.
I was just about to ask about that, yeah.
Right?
Yes. Brightside has a crew of folks that work for us that remove graffiti from public and private properties all year long, as long as the weather cooperates, and we remove graffiti from over 4,000 vandalized properties at no cost to the property owner.
Now, is it something that someone would, if they find graffiti in their area or maybe on their house or their building, they would just call you to say, hi, you know, I've found some graffiti, can someone come out and clean it up?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They can call us directly, or they can call the Citizen Service Bureau, and if they call CSB, then they can get a work order, and we are usually able to remove it within a couple weeks.
Mary Lou, we were talking about the daffodils that you do in the spring, or watching them bloom in the spring, but you're going to be having a bulb sale coming up soon, I think. Is that for daffodils too? Or?
Right. It's for daffodils and tulips, and then we also have these beautiful purple sensation alliums, and those bloom in
Those are like a big round ball, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they're like a big round ball. They're awesome
Yeah.
looking. And then we also have Stella d'Oro daylilies to help kind of.
I love daylilies.
Yeah,
well, love daylilies.
Well, then you're in luck. You come to us.
So when and where and what's the deal on that?
People can order them now. You can go on our website, brightsidestl.org, or you can call our office to get more information. And then the planting time is in October.
I was so going to ask how long they last, because I know the bulbs on the tulips, don't they come off at a certain time?
Well, you plant them. You plant them in the
fall,
and then they bloom in the spring.
I'm learning all kinds. Because a lot of the flowers, I mean, even at my house, I have daylilies and those types of things, and those usually come back every year.
Yes.
I'm always afraid to plant those types of flowers for that very reason.
Bulbs don't always last.
Yeah. Right.
Daffodils will come back pretty regularly.
They
the
multiply.
Tulips have gotten hybridized over the years, that a lot of people treat them like annuals, but I think the Darwin tulips that we have pretty much come back pretty regularly.
The bottom line is check out your website for any of the things we've talked about. And I have one final question for you. I heard that your real name is Smith, but you changed it to Green when you got this job. Is that
That's
true?
correct.
Okay.
Or my dad wouldn't care for that, but yeah.
Your mom actually started this thing, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah.
32 years ago. She was the first director of Brightside.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
And thank you so much for being here and sticking around and letting us know all of these great things. I'm learning new stuff every day here at the station. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and check out and see what's going on with Debbie in the Den.
All right, thanks so much, Sandy. Well, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's annual Light the Night Walk is coming up at Forest Park on September the 27th. And it not only raises money for patient services, but brings awareness, and it also commemorates the people's lives that have been touched by blood cancers. Now, blood cancer is kind of a scary thing to think about, but we're going to learn more about it. And I have this. Is this not the coolest thing? Light the Night. You can get one of these if you participate in the walk. Joining me right now is Phil Tracy and his lovely daughter, Haley. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Now, Haley, it says here that you are an honored hero for the Light the Night Walk. That is pretty exciting. Were you excited to hear about that? How old are you? Can you tell us a little?
4.
4 years old.
Not
How
too
are you?
talkative, huh?
How are you feeling today, Haley?
Hey, how are you feeling?
Good?
Yeah, you're fine.
Well, oh, she's going to whisper. Dad's the interpreter today.
Oh, your nose is running. Okay.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll try and get you a Kleenex. If anybody off camera has one, bring it on over. Well, Phil, let's talk a little bit about this. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society deals with any number of blood disorders. I mean, there's hundreds I know that they deal with. Can you talk a little bit specifically about Haley's case and how you discovered the issue and what the treatment was?
Yeah, actually, we found a lump on Haley's armpit on her first birthday, which was on a Friday. Monday was her 1-year checkup, so we thought, we'll mention it to the doctor, see what happens. They sent us for an ultrasound, said, you know, it's a swollen lymph node. There's a bunch of things it could be. Let's see what happens. And a week later, things weren't getting any better. They said, let's do a blood test. And within 45 minutes, we knew that she had leukemia.
That's a pretty terrifying diagnosis.
Yeah, it's interesting how it can change your world in just a few minutes. So we left the hospital, went to the cancer center, and started our treatment right then and there.
Now, it's one of those things that probably was not even, I can't speak for you, but that probably wasn't even in your mind. And then you get that diagnosis, and what do? Do you immediately start Googling it? Do you call the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, or what?
Yes, I mean, yeah, I spent hours and hours researching it, and they thought at first it was AML leukemia. It turned out to be ALL, which is a total different protocol for treatment. But yeah, there's a lot of information out there, especially with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. They can just teach you about the diseases that are out there and the treatments that there are for them.
Yeah, they have done a very good job in the last few years of getting the word out there, because I think people may be familiar with the term leukemia, but you know, leukemia and lymphoma, and then talking about them as blood cancers, I think really gets people's attention to wonder what is going on. And then I think everybody probably knows someone who has dealt with this at some point.
Yeah, it was interesting when this all came about. You know, I'd heard of leukemia. I did not know exactly what it was. But since then, you know, you realize how many lives it has touched. And Leukemia Lymphoma Society has done a great job of getting the word out there, especially the legislation about different treatments and stuff like that. They're doing a great job with just helping get information out there to the people that need to know it to help get treatment for everyone.
Now, how is Haley doing today, and what's the prognosis?
She's doing great. A month after her treatment started, she was considered in remission. We did another 2.5 years of what's called maintenance treatment, and today she's considered cancer-free. So
all right, and I know it's not something that only she's going through. It affects your whole family and everyone who knows you. I don't know if we have an opportunity here to get a shot of the family. We've got Haley's family and friends holding their light the night lamps. Now, this is a really cool idea, because there's a lot of walks, there's a lot of, you know, organizations that hold things like this, but I think this kind of differentiates you from the rest of the pack, because who wouldn't want one of these? Can you talk a little bit about the upcoming event?
Yeah, the neat thing about the Light the Night Walk, as far as I know, it's the only nighttime walk that we have here in St. Louis. And because of that, we do get these cool lanterns that we get to carry all around. And thankfully, you get to see a lot of these white ones. These are for survivors. We also have the red ones, which are for supporters. And we have the gold ones, which are to commemorate someone's life that had to deal with leukemia.
Will this be the first time you're participating, or are you a regular now?
Actually, this is our 4th year now.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, when we first started out, you know, we got a few family members and friends to come along. And over the years, we've grown and bigger. I don't even know how many we had. 40 people is how many we had in our team last year.
Oh, just on your team?
Just on our team. Yeah, now I just found out that the actual Light the Night Walk had 15,000 participants last year.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Now, for people who want to do this, it's in Forest Park. It's September the 27th. Do you need to raise a certain amount of money to do this? We have the information on the screen right now, so I hope people can jot that down. But it does start at 7:30. Things start beginning, and I imagine things really light up once night falls. But do you have to raise a certain amount, or no?
No, I believe, you know, to get the lanterns, they like you to donate $25 or raise $25. And there's different tiers that go on beyond that. But even if you want to just come down and walk and support, it's amazing. You start talking to people and hearing their stories, and it's amazing how this disease has touched so many people's lives.
I think Haley has something she wants to make sure you know.
Okay, we'll get that.
All right. Well, we are so glad to hear that you are doing well, Haley, and thank you for being one of the honored heroes and bringing a very important message out. And just before we let you go, Phil, what would you say to other parents or just anyone out there? Is there maybe a telltale sign or something that people should be looking out for in order to even start thinking that this might be an issue?
You know what? I talked to a couple different people yesterday that I just met that have dealt with leukemia either themselves or with their children. And every time it's a little bit different story about how they found it. So you really just got to rely on your doctors to recognize some symptoms and make the decision to check the blood work. And unfortunately, you can find that out pretty quick, but at the same time, that's a good thing to find out. because you want to get treatment started as soon as possible.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, and thanks for being part of Light the Night, and Phil and Haley joining us on behalf of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. You can see this, you can get one of these if you join the walk, which is September 27th. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk more about why some people will be wearing a lot of teal this fall and what that means for you. Stay with us here on St. Louis Presents.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Welcome back. September is National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month.
And St. Louis Ovarian Cancer Awareness is commemorating this with several activities and events all month long.
Joining us right now to tell us more about a number of events that you can get involved with are Christine Kruger and Lisa Sinkowitz. Thank you so much for being with us today. Okay, you're both wearing teal. You're color coordinated. Mm-hmm. Teal is the color. Why? Why are we wearing teal?
This is the color of awareness for ovarian cancer, and we are using the color teal during the month of September as a way to show that we're trying to get the word out about the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer.
Could you go into some of the signs and symptoms? We were talking about that
earlier.
Well,
the four main symptoms, one is bloating. The second one is pelvic or abdominal pain. The third one is urinary frequency or urgency. And the fourth one is feeling full quickly when you eat, just taking a couple of bites and then feeling like you don't need any more to eat.
So one of the things I think that a lot of women struggle with is when they go to their doctor and they may have some of these symptoms, I think a lot of women feel like they get blown off, like, oh, you just have cramps, or it's gas, or you're fine, just go home. And then they find out maybe 6 months, a couple years later, that indeed it was something serious. Mm-hmm. So do you hear that too? And what are your recommendations for women?
Well, it's very difficult because there isn't a diagnostic test, unlike mammograms for breast cancer. And so just getting the attention of your doctor is the most important piece. And I think part of that would be doing a symptom diary. We have one linked to our website where you can track your symptoms over a 2 or 3 week period, and you have something in concrete to bring to your doctor to have that discussion, which should get their attention.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And what are, when you do go to the doctor and you're telling them these things, it's important to get that really early diagnosis. I mean, to really be an advocate for yourself if you know something's up, right. Because this is not a cancer that you want to just sort of let linger around.
No, ovarian cancer is the deadliest of the gynecologic cancers. It does only affect 1 in 72 women, which compared to breast cancer is 1 in 8. But there is no diagnostic test for it. So when you go into your doctor and you suspect that this is something you might have, you really have to advocate for yourself, because there's a series of tests and questions and things that the doctor will ask you or perform on you, and it's part of their differential diagnosis. And so you have to keep telling the doctor over and over again, this is what's happening to me, this is how often it's happening to me. And eventually, you and the doctor have to work together. It's not like you can just go and get a test. A lot of women think that the Pap test will also find ovarian cancer, but that's only for cervical cancer. So on our website, you can see some of the diagnostic protocol and what the doctor may have to do and what you may have to do working with the doctor to come to the diagnosis.
Now, after having been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, what are the steps that go after that, as far as treatment? Are there any recommendations of things you have to change diet-wise, or whatever the case, for those who are diagnosed with that?
There's the testing that the doctor would have to go to. One of them is called the vaginal rectal exam, and that's a manual exam that the doctor would perform to see if there are any tumors or enlarged ovaries or any masses in the abdomen. There's also what we call a transvaginal ultrasound. It's a special type of ultrasound that looks at the woman's organs to see what might be in there. And then, especially if you have a family history, there is a blood test. And if you're like me and you have a family history, then the doctor will probably order the CA-125, which may give them an indication of whether or not you have something going on that could lead to ovarian cancer.
Now, St. Louis Ovarian Cancer Awareness, SLOCA, has a ton of events coming up because September is Awareness Month, but throughout the rest of the year, pretty much, you guys are on it. So why don't we? I know we have a number of slides that so people can really see, but there's two coming up quite quickly. And one involves cookies. Why don't we start there?
There's an annual cookie bake, and it'll be at the Deerbrook's Cooking School in Des Peres. And annually we have volunteers gather, and they make the teal ribbon cookies and package them up, and they get sent to the treatment centers where you'll have oncology nurses and you'll have patients getting chemotherapy infusions. And generally that's about 1,000 cookies that get made then.
Wow. All right. And so on Friday, September the 5th, if people happen to be wandering through Keener Plaza, they're going to see a lot more teal.
Oh, yes.
Right. We're going to turn the fountain teal at Keener Plaza and hand out information to people who are passing through, talk to them about the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer, and just making them more aware.
Okay, and then the next day we'll have something going on for survivors in Richmond Heights. Just a number of events, including trivia nights and a run. What's the website for you guys? Because I know you not only have all of the events listed, but what we've also talked about the checklist and the symptoms and all of those things.
Right. It's SLOCA, S-L-O-C-A, which is short for St. Louis Ovarian Cancer Awareness.org.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for being here. Teal is a fabulous color, and you've done a great job these last few years really getting the awareness up, and cookies always help. So if you have any cookies for Steve Potter, pass them along because he's always hungry, and I know he's got some news for us.
Thanks, Debbie. The St. Louis Public Library's Central Library recently celebrated the grand opening of Urban Eats Cafe Central. The cafe is located in the west wing of the library's Locust Street atrium, with an eclectic menu that includes smoothies, coffee and tea, wraps, salads, snacks, and treats. You can enjoy their dining and reading area Monday through Saturdays from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Contact the St. Louis Public Library for more information. Musical entertainment, an artist's village, carnival games, food, and much more were all part of the recent Rise Up Festival in Crown Square. The festival is part of RISE's continuing efforts to raise awareness about the importance of revitalizing communities and neighborhoods in the St. Louis metropolitan area. RISE is a nonprofit organization that connects key groups working to revitalize communities and neighborhoods in Greater St. Louis. To learn more about their efforts, visit them at risestl.org. And applications are currently being accepted for the Urban Male Employment and Entrepreneur Program launched by Near Southside Employment Coalition. This new employment and training program is aimed at placing urban males between the ages of 18 and 25 into employment and positioning them to start their own businesses. This training is supported by a grant from the United Way of Greater St. Louis. Those interested in applying or enhancing the effort through sponsorship or partnership can contact the NSEC at nsecworks.org. And you know, guys, the last couple of weeks, every time we get together, we've been talking about how fast summer's been going, and it certainly has. But also, finally, we've hit those high temperatures. It's finally starting to feel like summer, like 100 degrees, right?
I was not really missing that, honestly. I could do without it. Anyway, we had some great information here, almost a little spill, which would have, then we could have segged into a first aid segment.
This is a dangerous,
that would have been a YouTube
job.
video.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition of St. Louis Presents on STL TV.
We want to thank our great guests, and thank you at home for watching.
And of course, make sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.